This video is going to be a complete guide to the March Championship Challenge. I'll go over all of the maps, the best brawlers for each map, and how you can come up with the best teams using those brawlers. As always for the Championship Challenge, I strongly recommend getting a team, and even if you don't have anyone on your friends list who would play with you, you can always use the search for team feature and just keep going through until you find a team that you like. That's at least going to have a lot better results than just going in with randoms. But let's talk about the first map, which is going to be Minecart Madness for Gem Grab. So here I have the best brawlers for this map listed out. They're not in any particular order, so I don't think the ones at the top are better than the ones at the bottom or anything. These are all going to be very, very strong brawlers depending on who you pair them with. And honestly, the meta is at a place right now where if you basically pick any three of these brawlers, they would make a pretty solid team comp. The only real things you have to consider is just to make sure not to include like 2 throwers on the same team or have everyone on your team be really, really low health. But other than that, for all of these different maps, just combining any 3 of the top brawlers is usually going to get you a pretty strong comp. So Stu is a very, very good brawler for this map. In fact, he's great for pretty much all the maps. Stu is a very strong brawler right now, but only if you have practice with him, because he hasn't been out for a long time at all. And all the pros, you can see their gameplay of Stu. He can be very, very good when played correctly, but if you haven't practiced with him enough, then he probably won't be performing the way you need him to in order to win these games. So I would actually discourage you from running Stu if you don't have the practice with him, but if you think you are good with him and you probably will know how good he is if you have practice with him, then you can run him. But otherwise, I would stay away from him. Colonel Ruffs is also going to be a great brawler on this map. Maybe not the best brawler to go in with randoms, because support type brawlers usually aren't great when the people you're supporting don't have much idea what they're doing, and you can't really communicate with them. But if you're going in with the team, Ruffs is very, very strong to buff up your teammates and give your team the advantage you need to hold down the center of this map. Sandy is another great choice for the control that you get from your super. Max is also a very, very good choice from the speed you get for the super and just keeping control with her main attack and her gadget. Amber is still pretty solid even after a slight damage nerf. She is very, very good in 1v1 matchups, and her super can make it really awkward for your opponent to walk around if they don't want to take a ton of damage. 8-Bit is a very, very good control brawler. Once you get that turret placed down near the center, you're going to have that fast movement speed and you're going to be doing a ton of damage, and it's going to be very difficult for your opponents to break through your position and try to get back control of the mine. So 8-Bit's a very, very good choice here. BB can also be a good choice, so it might be a bit harder if you're facing against a very long range comp. Mr. P is going to be great if you have his porters constantly headed towards your opponents, and Sprout I think is the one thrower who is the best on this map. The walls can make it really tough for your opponents to get where they need to be in order to take you out. In terms of general strategy for this map, you really just want to take advantage of the minecart whenever possible, and when it's headed towards your opponent's direction, use that to take advantage and push forward a little and try to get control of the mine, and just hope that your opponents can't do the same when it's headed towards your side. But this is the first map, so you're going to be facing really low level people, so honestly just play the brawlers you're most comfortable with, because you're going to be facing some random comps, so the brawlers that are best in the current meta might actually not be as good on this first map, simply because the type of brawlers you're facing are so different from what you would normally face in a typical ladder match. And that actually applies for, I'd say, the first 2 or 3 maps in this challenge, so keep that in mind. Then our next map is going to be Shooting Star for Bounty. This is a very, very open map, so you want to stick with long-range brawlers here. Piper is going to be very, very good. She can sort of camp in the bushes on the side with her ambush star power and just have a ton of damage and be constantly attacking your opponents and raking in a ton of stars. And she always has her super to get away if there is a Mortis on your opponent's team for some reason. Nani is also a great pick for this map. She's very good at long range, and she just deals a ton of damage, and her super is incredibly broken. You can basically one-shot anyone you want on the map with little threat of dying as long as your teammates aren't down. So Nani is going to be a very consistent pick for this map. We also have Tick and Sprout if you're looking for a thrower option, both of which are great on this map. Tick with his new rework and his new gadget Last Hurrah are going to be great for just being able to get consistent wins on this map. You won't be as susceptible to any close range assassin brawlers with that new gadget, and because if you throw your mines on yourself, they're going to be a lot closer together, and so they'll deal a lot more damage now. Byron is another great option. Once again, the support brawlers are going to be better on teams rather than going in with randoms, but Byron's just a very strong brawler. Can provide a lot of support and hold the team together and deal a lot of damage while he's at it. We've also got Colonel Ruffs, who is great on this map, and then Mr. P, a great long-range brawler with that added pressure from his super. Since this map is so open, you just want to stay at long range, keep your opponents at the very end of your range, and just play the game slow and steady. If you have a brawler like Nani, you're going to be able to get kills throughout the match, and it won't be a race in the last 10 seconds to see who can get those few stars needed to win. So running brawlers like that might make the games a bit more safe, but honestly, like I said, this is the second map, so the things your opponents are playing are probably going to be very weird. So if you're just playing a long-range comp, it probably shouldn't be too bad to just farm your opponents the whole match, because the only way they stand a chance then is if they're also playing a long-range comp. Now the next map is going to be Nuts and Bolts for Siege, and Stu is great on this map. He's great on everything basically except Bounty, where everyone else outranges him. He can just take on so many brawlers with the agility of his super and just the amount of damage he's able to output. Ruffs is also great for the same reasons, and he's going to give your teammates a buff, which is always a great thing to have. BB is very, very good. Here you probably want to run her home run star power just to make sure you can get to the bolts as quickly as possible. But everywhere else I would recommend running the batting sand star power. I am putting all the best star powers and gadgets down in the comments, by the way, so make sure to go check that out when you are going into your matches to see what setup you should be using. Now for other good brawlers on this map, Jackie is a more tanky option who is great at keeping control with all the walls there are in the center. Sandy is great, just as great damage, and has a super. Tick and Sprout and Barley, 3 great throwers. They all serve slightly different purposes, but can all do really, really well in Siege. So I just say pick whichever one you're most comfortable with, or if there's a particular one you think synergizes better with the other people on your team, then pick that one. Now in terms of strategy for Siege, basically the main thing right now is just to get the last Siege, because that's going to be the time when you can throw yourselves at the opponent's Ike turret without the need to have to gain control and gain bolts after that siege. So you really want to focus on getting that last siege. The first 2 aren't as important, because even if you lose both of them, you still have a really, really good chance of winning as long as you get that last siege. So if you and your opponent are close in bolts around the second siege, you actually want to let your opponents take those bolts so that way they can win the second siege, which means you're going to have a great head start in winning the third siege. Now the next map is going to be Split for Hot Zone. Now we've got a lot of the common meta brawlers that are also really good on this map. You know, you have Stu, Ruffs, Amber, they're all very, very solid on this map. In terms of throwers, Tick and Sprout once again are going to be very, very good. Once you get on the zone, it becomes harder for people to get closer to the zone when you can just constantly throw your projectiles to block off the lane that they're trying to approach from. But then there's also a few brawlers that we haven't really seen on the other maps, like Surge. I think he's very, very strong on this map. Once he powers up a bit, he's going to be able to keep control of the zone for a while, and his teleport is definitely very, very useful on this map because there are so many walls. Rico is another pick that's specific to this map, because if you ever get control of the right hot zone, it's going to be very, very hard for your opponents to walk up through the grass and get towards your zone, because they only have a single path, and you can basically block that off if you just bounce your shots off the wall and into that grass constantly. It's very, very difficult for your opponents to regain control, and you're going to be able to get a huge advantage if you're able to stake that position out and your opponents don't have an answer. Now moving to the final map, it's going to be Sneaky Fields in Brawl Ball. Now we've got the classic brawlers coming up once again. Stu and Ruffs, just very, very strong brawlers all around right now, so you definitely can play them in this map as well. But one very, very good brawler specific to this map is going to be Rosa, because there are so many bushes, and with Rosa's new Unfriendly Bushes gadget, you're going to be able to slow down all of your opponents at once, and that is a massive advantage to have in Brawl Ball, because in order to score, you really need all your opponents to be down at once. If you just keep killing them one after another, it's going to be difficult to score because they keep respawning and they keep being able to block your goals. So with Rose's gadget, you can really easily pull off a team wipe. So that is a very critical part of this comp that I would strongly recommend you run, whether or not you're going in with randoms or with another team. Definitely pick Rosa. She's very, very good as long as you have the second gadget, of course. Even without the second gadget, she still can hold her own. And now a great brawler you can pair with Rosa is actually Max, because once you slow down your opponents, you can use Max's speed to just charge up on them, and there's absolutely nothing they can do. That's almost guaranteed to result in a team wipe, because you can basically make it a 3v1 against each one of your opponents, one after the other, in that short duration when they're slowed, because you're all so fast, so you can just move across the entire field. So it's very easy to get a team wipe if you combine Rose's gadget with Max, and then of course Max's speed is great for the rest of the match as well, even if your opponents aren't slowed. So that's definitely something you can try out on this map. For other picks, Sandy is great. You can use your Rude Sand star power here to uncover wherever your opponents are in the bushes. Mr. P can also use his porters to do that, so he's a pretty good choice for this map. Nita and Jessie are really strong Brawl Ball brawlers right now. They can put out a solid amount of damage with their main attack, and Nita's bear is obviously very good for pushing your opponents back towards their goal, and same for Jessie's super. If you use your Spark Plug gadget, you can slow down your opponents similar to Rosa, and that's going to let you get some easy kills that'll eventually lead into scoring a goal. And so that's actually the last map. And so if you pick from the brawlers that I gave you in all of these different maps, I think you'll have a really good shot of making it all the way to the end of this challenge. Like I said, teams are the best way to go about this challenge, so make sure to do that. Good luck with this challenge. I hope you get 15 wins. You can let me know in the comments how you guys did, but that's all for today, guys. So see you later.